and I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Hey, everybody, thanks so much for joining us right here on The Right View for a little ladies' tea. Tonight we are joined by political commentators Sabrina Kosmas and Annemarie Wiley. Ladies, thank you so much for joining. Look, I think the whole thing going on with all the information coming out with Joe Biden, obviously his cognitive decline, now everybody's talking about Jake Tapper's got his book out, all the things. But when we dig a little bit deeper and you start to really think about what was going on in this country over the past 4 years, there were so many of us who asked the question numerous times, Sabrina. We said, who is actually in charge of the United States? Who's running this country? Who's making those decisions? Once upon a time, people said whoever controlled the teleprompter was in control of what Joe Biden said, and by way of that, they were sort of in charge of what was going on in the country. Then we found out there was an auto pen situation, and I think it would be safe to say that whoever was in charge of the auto pen was also in charge of a lot of decision making that went on in this country. Well, guess what? Some folks in the Republican Party are saying, I think we need to investigate this a little more. I think so. So House Oversight Chairman James Comer has said that the House GOP has identified the staffers who had the main control over the auto pen during the last several months of Joe Biden's tenure as president, and that those individuals with its use will face interviews and depositions if needed. So they're going to bring these staffers in for full congressional interviews. Obviously, they may have to subpoena some of them. And he says they're going to, quote, have a full-blown deposition. Sabrina, I got to tell you something. This is not a second too soon. What I think we saw happen over the last 4 years, the lies that were told to the American people, the manipulation via the media to tell all of us, hey, calm on down. There's no problem here with Joe Biden. He's barely able to walk out to Marine One, but inside the White House, man, he's running circles around the interns in the White House. The cover-up that went underway, the fact that they kept this guy in until he literally fell flat on his face during that first debate with Donald Trump. I think that this is one of the, if not the biggest scandal in American political history, and I'm going to go ahead and stand by that. What do you think, Sabrina?
I completely agree. I mean, it was very clear that Biden was not in good physical or mental health his entire term. I mean, you received so much backlash from the mainstream media for pointing it out, as a lot of Republicans did. And all I can hope is that Republicans will actually hold Democrats accountable, because not only do Americans deserve to know who has been in charge the last however many years, but especially Democrats. I can't imagine being part of the Democratic Party that calls itself a Democratic Party when they had no say in who their presidential nominee was after Joe Biden pulled out in July. They now find out that, the president that they did think they had elected was actually not the one that was signing executive orders and pardons. So everyone deserves to know who was actually running our country, but I would say especially the Democrats. I would want to know.
Yeah, imagine, Annemarie, this is your party and you're sticking by him and you're like, yeah, we're going to just ride this one out. I really wonder, Sabrina just said the pardons and the executive orders. I'm very curious what happens with this. If we find out, Annemarie, that Joe Biden was not the person who signed all those pardons. Remember all the people they had in there? My favorite one, of course, is Adam Schiff. That guy is as crooked as the day is long. Let me tell you something. Liar every chance he got, lied about Donald Trump, Russia collusion, all of that. The pardons and the executive orders, do you think those still stand? What's going to happen with all of that? And everything that Joe Biden signed, if he signed some bill into law, does that count? Like, where do we draw the line on what's acceptable to be auto pen? And did Joe Biden even know his signature was being put on these things? I think a lot of people would argue probably not.
Yeah, and I think we all know the answer to this. I think that we just need to be honest and actually say what the answer is out loud. And the Democratic Party, they're the ones who really need to admit that. It comes down to, was Joe Biden cognitively fit to make these decisions? The auto pen can be used if there is permission for it to be used by the president. If he is not cognitively able to be making these decisions, then whatever was signed by auto pen cannot stand by law. And I think that we were all very much aware that Joe Biden was in drastic cognitive decline. Like you said, it is one of the biggest scandals and cover-ups that we've ever seen in politics. And I think once they uncover these things, once these people are subpoenaed and deposed, the American people are going to find out the truth, and we deserve to know the truth.
At the very least, we deserve to know the truth. Yeah, I mean, better late than never. I'm really curious what's going to come out of these interviews with these staffers who apparently were auto penning everything they could get their hands on in the White House. Remember, Joe Biden approved like all of this egregious money to be spent in the last couple hours of his presidency, just crazy stuff like that. But you know, your point about whether or not he knew he was doing it, Annemarie, I think is absolutely spot on. But I remember hearing Speaker Johnson talk about a meeting he had with Joe Biden. This was towards the end of Biden's term. And I forget what the exact thing was that he was asking him about, but he said, why did you sign this? Why did you do X, whatever it was? And Joe Biden goes, I didn't do that. And he said, yes, you did. You signed it into law last Tuesday or whatever it was. This guy had no idea what the heck was going on around there. And so I think we're going to dig very deep into this. We probably don't even have to dig that deep. Sabrina, I think we're going to find out a lot of very interesting information. But speaking of the Democrats, since you brought them up, bless their hearts, as we say where I grew up in North Carolina, they're having a hard time. David Hogg, who's the vice chair of the DNC, despite the fact that they want him out of there, they're so done with this guy. I will say I actually agree with some of the things that David Hogg has said. He said his party completely abandoned, young men, and that's why so many of them moved and shifted to the Republican Party and voted for Donald Trump. They lost this huge swath of voters. He's kind of calling out things, although I don't know if I do it that publicly as the former RNC co-chair. Don't know I do it that publicly, but I do agree with him on a lot. Here's one, Sabrina, I do not know that I can get on board with. He thinks that Democrats should be supporting people as leaders of their party like Jasmine Crockett. He went on the Breakfast Club. They loved having me on when I was on there, by the way. Shout out to everyone at the Breakfast Club. He said, Jasmine is frankly the type of leader we're looking to support in some senses. Somebody who's out there that frankly doesn't give a damn what the other side, at least the elected Republicans in Congress, say. At least even if you don't agree with her, you know what she stands for because she makes it very clear. And people are really craving that right now. He says she's authentic and speaks her mind instead of referencing the same talking points. I got to be really honest, Sabrina, that is not an individual with whom I would want to align my party as a leader. Fine, she's out there. All the things Jasmine Crockett does, all the horrific things she said about, Governor Abbott, all of it. It's a little crazy, but maybe this is the new direction. What do you think for the Democrats? Is that going to help them?
I'm rooting for this direction just so that it ensures more Republican victories for years and years to come. But yes, David Hogg, it's kind of funny that he thinks this is like the secret recipe that's going to fix the Democratic Party when Democrats clearly have not even cared what Republicans have thought, let alone their own constituents think, which is why they have been running things the way that they have the last decade. But safe to say, so Jasmine Crockett is very concerning if that is who you trust the future of your party with. And the way that she carries herself, the way that she speaks to others, to them, it's like very demeaning, especially considering she is highly educated. She comes from a very affluent background, so I don't know what this kind of cosplay action is, but safe to say everyone is very clearly trying to replicate Trump's authenticity, but that is the thing about authenticity, it cannot be replicated no matter how hard they try. And when they do it, they always seem to do it in such an extreme off way. Like, of course,
very cringy.
Constituents want to hear how things are directly, but there's a way to do that without coming off as offensive, rude, brash, all the words I could use to describe Jasmine Crockett.
Yeah,
I want to take that one step further.
Go ahead.
Sorry, Laura. I have to get this off my chest. When you said that is how little Jasmine Crockett thinks of her constituents, that is how little the Democratic Party thinks of their constituents. They are using this woman as a trope, right? They're trying to have someone that comes off as authentic like Donald Trump does. You are taking this educated Black woman and putting her into the role of the angry Black woman that will just say anything that is sensational. She is being used as a trope, and she is allowing herself to be used as a trope. And it is working for some people. And then there are people like myself who are embarrassed by it. I find Jasmine Crockett terribly, terribly embarrassing. And if that is the direction that the Democratic Party wants to take their constituents, I am sorry, but that is going to work out terribly for them. This woman cannot be the face of your party. Like Sabrina said, if that's the direction they want to go, they're ensuring Republican winning for many years to come. But Jasmine Crockett is a trope. That is essentially what she is.
Well, and by the way, you don't have to look that hard to find who she actually is, because you go back a couple of years and you find, video evidence of how she actually talks and how she actually behaved, at least prior to whatever we're seeing now. That's the difference, though. You're right. The Democrats are desperate to connect with the voters. They saw that people connected with Donald Trump, despite all they tried to do to demonize him, to attack his character, to make him out to be this horrible monster. People connected with Donald Trump because he's authentic. You know why? Because you go back to video of Donald Trump on the Oprah Winfrey show from like 1992. He is the exact same Donald Trump in 1992 as he is today in 2025. He's saying the exact same things then as he is saying now. He always has been. He has never changed who he was. But Jasmine Crockett, you don't have to look that far back to see that she seemed like a totally different person. So which one is it? Like, are you the one that we saw previously? Are you the one now? People can smell inauthenticity, and it really stinks, and it turns them off. It's like, it's one of the more disgusting things, I think, to the American people is fake, phony, people trying so hard to be a certain way. The American voters are like, absolutely not. We want nothing to do with any of this. This is one of the reasons, by the way, that I think the Obama coalition turned into the Trump coalition. Mm-hmm. So you have all of these exit polls, right? Whenever you have voting end. And the exit polls will tell you a certain amount of data. It'll give you a certain overview in terms of, groups and the electorate and this, that, and the other. But it's not until you get like really deep into it, which takes time. We just got this information out. Apparently, we don't need the exit polls anymore. We have the real stuff. And unsurprisingly, Kamala Harris performed incredibly poorly. So Harris lost critical ground with young voters, people of color, especially men of color, especially young men of color. She only gained ground with one group. These are married white women, and she only gained 1 point in that spot. And super voters, these are people who voted in the last 4 elections. She only did 1 point better than Joe Biden among the super voters, but she lost a lot of ground among what they call irregular voters. We called them from the RNC low propensity voters. Those are people who don't come out and vote every single election. They might come out once every 4, presidential election cycles and vote. Latino men moved 4 times more towards Donald Trump in 2024 than white men without a college degree. And the shift in Latino men, 12 points more for Republicans in 2024 than 2020. The whole point of this is people saw first Joe Biden, right? They saw Joe Biden come out and they saw that they were trying to prop him up like Weekend at Bernie's. It was so embarrassing and shocking to a lot of people. And then they kicked him out. And I think, Sabrina, you said it earlier, they don't allow their constituents to actually vote on who's going to represent them and their party. They just plug people in. So they plugged in Kamala Harris. Then she came out, and she was about as phony gets. People felt that. They saw that, and they saw that she really didn't know what the heck she was doing. It felt like she was given a script every time she got in front of a camera, and she read that script to a T. You could tell she was reading because she said words wrong that were very basic. Like it should be price gouging, not price gauging, but I remember her reading price gauging, and I was like, I don't even know what that means. She just read stuff. She connected with no one, and it seems like now in the wake of it, if I were part of the DNC and part of the head of this party, I would take a look at all of it. I'd take a look at the messenger. I'd take a look at the message. I'd take a look overall at the things that we were supporting. It feels like, though, that most people in their party, and give me your sense of this, Sabrina, are willing to just look at the messenger in Kamala Harris and say, well, maybe that wasn't our best pick, but we're going to still keep beating the same drum and going down the same path. Do you get that same sense from the Democrats?
I definitely do, because I feel like these last 6 months would have been the pivotal moment for Democrats to recognize their wrongdoing in the last election and try to understand, where the disconnect was with voters and try to overcorrect. But instead, so many of them, these leaders in the Democratic Party, people in the mainstream media, still think that Kamala, was almost they're blaming everything but her and their party. They're blaming, black men are racist or misogynist. Yeah. That's why they didn't vote for her. Everyone else that didn't vote for her was racist. So there's always this deflecting, whereas they just can't recognize that, okay, where did we lose connection with our voters? And I think a lot of it came down to some of these demographics, as you mentioned, whether it was people of color, young men. They did not care about the social justice initiatives that were being pushed on them by the Democratic Party these past few years. They cared about the economy and immigration, especially when it came to this very obvious message that, we can bring immigrants in who will replace all these jobs that you guys need. Oh, you're having trouble feeding your family, but look at how racist the Republicans are. They were constantly deflecting to things that actually did not matter and that were really just boogeymen. And so it's funny that I don't know how long it's going to take for them to realize it. I mean, they didn't realize it right after the election. I feel like even now with this polling, they're still not realizing it.
In today's world, protecting yourself and your family has never been more important. But we know sometimes a firearm isn't the right answer. That's why I'm proud to introduce you to the new Byrna Compact Launcher, or CL. This is the world's smallest and most powerful, less lethal self-defense tool. Look at this. It's about the size of a smartphone. But I'll tell you what, don't let its small size fool you. Firing at 400 feet per second, the CL packs enough punch to stop a threat right in their tracks without the life-altering consequences of deadly force. Here's something else I love. Over 80% of Byrna's components are proudly made right here in the USA, and every launcher is hand-assembled in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Protect what matters most, safely, legally, and with confidence. Visit Byrna.com today to learn more about the compact launcher. Byrna, the alternative to deadly force. That's BYRNA. Visit Byrna.com to learn more. As you know, our friend Mike Lindell has a passion to help everyone get the best sleep of your life. He didn't just stop by simply creating the best pillow. Mike created the best bed sheets ever. They look and feel great, which means an even better night's sleep for me, which is crucial for my busy schedule. Mike is offering the best deal on his Giza Dream bed sheets. Any size, any color, just $49.98. That's right, you can even get queens, kings, split kings, and California kings. Any size, any color, just $49.98. Order now because when they're gone, they're gone. Also, for a limited time, when your order is over $100, you will receive $100 in free digital gifts. Call 1-800-624-3945, use promo code LARA, or go to MyPillow.com and make sure you use the promo code LARA for the amazing offer of $49.98 on the Giza Dream Sheets, any size and any color. Number again is 1-800-624-3945. Well, it's funny because, Annemarie, I think that the thing that we felt was going to make a big difference were the young voters. And now we know for sure the young voters came out in droves. The shift was huge towards Republicans and towards President Trump. One of the interesting things that I find, though, is that I feel like there's a pendulum swing of patriotism coming back, and it's starting with the younger generation of Americans. Like, these are maybe, college-age students or even kids in high school. Listen to this statistic. Patriotism being very important. This is a Gallup poll conducted in 1998. And these are Americans who say that patriotism was very important to them. In 1998, 70% of the country thought that that was important, being patriotic. 2023, only 38% of Americans think that it's important to be very patriotic. It's so scary to me to see the disconnect between Americans and our country, and not appreciating this country, and not believing this is the greatest country on earth, and not, because look, if you don't believe America is great and you don't love this country and you're not proud of this country, you're not going to be willing to serve in any capacity. You're not going to fight for this country if you ever have to. You're not going to get involved in things in your community because you're like, why would I even bother? But there is a shift happening, and this is very interesting. with young people in this country right now. So they say that there are many forces behind the collapse of national pride, but the most influential may be what young Americans are being taught or not taught about their country. From classrooms to TikTok feeds, anti-American narratives dominate. We know that. We know that why there are a lot of people who feel that way, the 38%. But they're saying that 46% of young people voted for Donald Trump in 2024. That is up from 36% just 4 years prior in 2020. And young men shifted roughly 15 points to the right, drawn not by legacy media, but by new media voices online. I mean, think about Theo Vaughn, think about Joe Rogan. We know they're watching the podcast, they're not on legacy media. And so now you have this shift where young voters are actually winning this culture war in America, and they're saying we actually do love this country and we're actually willing to take our country back. We saw the shift with these young people voting for Donald Trump, and I think it's got a lot to do. I'm going to give a shout out to groups like Turning Point USA who go on these college campuses, who sit there. Charlie Kirk will sit there and he will allow these kids to ask any question they want, and he'll talk to them. I mean, I guess you could say he'll debate them, but oftentimes once Charlie starts talking, these kids are like, oh yeah, you're right. But I feel slightly more optimistic about the upcoming generations, Annemarie, with information like that we saw this shift in young voters, that the patriotism is maybe going to have a comeback starting with a younger generation. I do love to hear things like that.
Yeah, and what I think has happened is that patriotism has become cool again, right?
It has.
We were the generation where all we had was the legacy media, and they were constantly pumping us full of this propaganda. And now you've got this generation that has all of these new media outlets and these young influencers like CJ Pearson and Xavier DeRousseau, who are out there making an impact with these agencies such as Turning Point, and they're reaching all the young people, and they're hungry for this information. They're also the ones who are graduating from college. They are entering into an economy where they can't find jobs, they can't buy houses. They're like, there has to be something different out there, and now they're being given an alternative, and they're turning towards it because it is resonating with them. So I think that we're seeing an amazing shift that the new media has brought, and these young people are just eating it up. And now they are the new voters. They are the new wave, and they are leading us in the direction. They're saying what they want. They want a Republican country.
It's so funny, too, because if you look at videos online, and maybe this is just what generates in my social media, because they know the things that I'm into. You look at videos of like a young group of conservatives, college-age conservatives, right? They're just like having a good time. They're maybe in the back of a truck or they're happy. Everybody's. Then you go to the other side. You go to like the liberals, and they're miserable, and they're screaming, and they're shouting, and they've got their Free Palestine, posters and all that stuff out. They're still wearing masks. I don't know who is choosing to be a liberal right now. It's pretty terrible, especially in the wake of this horrific murder, double murder in Washington, D.C. last week. These two young Jewish, almost engaged couple, and we all heard about how horrific that was. Well, one of the things that has come out since then is that the woman, Sarah Milgram is her name, was trying to crawl away from the scene. This just shows you how calculated and horrific this whole thing was, and just cold-blooded this guy who murdered them really was. They say he was captured on the video extending both his arms in the direction of the descendants and firing several times, as indicated by the muzzle flashes. Once the descendants fell to the ground, Rodriguez, this is the suspect, you have to say that, is captured on the video advancing closer, leaning over them with his arms extended and firing several more times. As Milgram attempted to crawl away, he followed behind her and fired again. She was literally trying to crawl away, and this guy fires again, just a couple more shots to ensure she's dead, and then he screams, "Free Palestine," as he's being arrested and as he's being taken into custody. The whole thing, where we've landed in this country on this stuff, I think, it is really terrifying in so many ways. The fact that this happened, it's horrific, Sabrina, obviously. But this guy in particular, I think I would love to get his take on why he thought any of this was ever anything that any person should do. You cannot go out and you cannot do things like this. But it feels like you've been given a pass in so many respects by the way you've seen colleges not call out anti-Semitism. Quite frankly, the way the last administration didn't feel like they were going to address it at all. Thank God we have President Trump in there, who is revoking money from these institutions. It just seems like there has been very little accountability for all of this hostility and anti-Semitic sentiment all across this country. And now you have two people who are dead, Sabrina. And to find out this guy, as the woman's trying to crawl away, he just shot her a couple more times. Awful.
This whole story is so incredibly heartbreaking, to say the least. And I mean, the thing that's really concerning is it's not even just a matter of trying to reason with some of these people, but it's kind of concerning how the left is starting to kind of idolize a lot of these people. We saw it with sorry, I'm going to butcher his last name, Luigi Mangione.
Yeah.
Where now there's TikTok accounts dedicated, obsessed with him, and they're putting him on a pedestal, and it makes you wonder if, it's kind of like when, there's a horrific murder and they don't want to disclose all the details because it inspires other people.
Right.
It almost feels like, are these people doing it for clout? Are they doing it to be idolized within this like crazed movement? It's really disappointing to see two malicious murders so close to each other and then the left's reaction, celebrating them almost.
Well, and there was some, I don't know if this was a celebration, Annemarie, but there was a meme coin that was then launched. They say in a twisted tribute, traders launched a meme coin with this suspected murderer's likeness and name. This is according to the New York Post. They say that the meme coin was hovering around $368,000 and dropped to $24,000. But as of Friday, around 550 people had bought this meme coin with this guy's face on it. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's really just disgusting. I don't know why they insist on glorifying violence, whether it's they're burning Tesla trucks this week or whatever it is they're doing. It's just this constant glorification of violence and feeling like they are justified in doing these terrible acts. They're always trying to act like they are morally superior to everyone, but their actions speak to the exact opposite. And I think it's just really terrible. These people need to be held accountable, that these kinds of actions will not be tolerated, and we really have to have the conversation of mental health in this country. Yeah. Everyone wants to blame guns and say that guns are the problem. Guns are not the problem. The people holding the guns are the problem. This man is mentally unstable, like anyone else that can commit a heinous crime like this. They need to be held accountable, and the root of these problems needs to be talked about.
Well, and I think it's a little weird that apparently the father of this guy was invited by Democrats, some member of Congress, to President Trump's joint address to Congress back in February. I still am, I don't know what that's all about. It's a little weird that connection has happened, but I guess we'll stay tuned and see what that all means, if how that pans out at all, if it does. Just a little bit weird, but okay. Just to wrap us up today, AI is something that I think is so fascinating. I was reading a story the other day about how this girl literally went and used ChatGPT. She like plugged photos of herself into ChatGPT. And she asked ChatGPT, based on her skin tone, like her eye color, everything else, to give her like the best hair color for her. And turns out she'd been blonde for like 10 years, and ChatGPT was like, nope, you should be a brunette. She changed her hair. She looks amazing. Sent photos of her outfits, asked it to like put together outfits for her. Great. By the way, I'm all here for that. I think that's fantastic. But now you have other elements of AI that I think are absolutely terrifying. Apparently, there is a new AI model, Claude Opus 4, that is willing to strong-arm humans who keep it alive. The company's system card reveals that when evaluators place the model in extreme situations where its shutdown seemed imminent, The chatbot sometimes takes extremely harmful actions, like attempting to steal its weights or blackmail people it believes are trying to shut it down. If you've ever seen Terminator, where the machines like literally take over, I'm just telling you, I've been waiting for this one for a long time, Sabrina. These machines are exponentially smarter and process information faster than a human brain ever possibly could. So here already, they're doing these tests and they're like, wait a minute, when it finds out you're going to shut it down, it will do crazy things to stay turned on. It doesn't want to be shut off. It wants to be stay on and stay moving and doing its stuff. If we're already here and we haven't even gotten these things in our home, like I've seen Elon's got his robot or whatever we call it. And then he's like, everybody's going to want one of these in their home. I don't know, Sabrina, would you have this thing in your home if it's going to start like fighting you and like lying to your spouse, or I don't know, saying it's going to kidnap your kids? I don't know what it could do. I'm just saying it freaks me out a lot, Sabrina.
Oh, it totally freaks me out. I don't even have Siri enabled on my phone.
Me
I am
neither.
like the most technology resistant to all of this. I have seen enough Will Smith and Arnold Schwarzenegger movies to know better. But yeah, it is really, really scary. I'm not the biggest tech like fascinated person, so I don't follow a lot of these advancements. But then when I see a story like this, I'm like, yeah, I'm good. We're gonna do it old school in my house. No robots.
No, listen, Annemarie, I love the fact that Elon is saying that maybe within a year, blind people who were born blind, are going to be able to see based on this incredible technology, based on some AI features that he's found, that he's honed in on. I love that. I love the idea that I think science is going to benefit from this a lot. The healthcare will benefit from AI a lot. This kind of stuff, though, it's going to be, you're going to have to take the good with the bad. And I don't know who gets to determine where that line is, but I have been consistently freaked out by it. And I will add, I feel like we are continuing to turn ourselves into a society that is so heavily reliant on technology that none of us are going to be able to do anything. People are going to end up so stupid because all people do now is they just go and chat GPT and they're like, write this for me. Can't even like write a poem. You can't do anything. Just let some mindless thing write it for you. It's upsetting.
Yeah, it honestly does seem like a really scary, like sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
But I will be the first to admit I use ChatGPT for a lot of things.
It's
I
great.
think it's wonderful. It's, you know what, because it saves so much time.
Yeah.
But I think the determining factor is that we as humans, we still need to be in control of it. We can't let the technology be running us. We can't allow it to dumb us down, and we can't allow it to replace us. Right? Like that's really the thing. It can be so useful, like you said, in scientific developments, especially in healthcare. It's not going anywhere, so we need to be able to live with it. We just need to be able to control it. We need to watch our children around it. We need to watch those people that are mentally unstable around it. We need to protect vulnerable people from it. We need to be in charge of it. It can't be in charge of us. I think that is the big differentiation.
Yeah, but it makes me nervous because there's always some like bad apple out there. There's like one rogue person who will program one of these things, right? And then what do you do? I mean, I know I saw some video the other day of the military, and they have these AI planes that fly alongside one of our fighter jets, and you have the human in the middle fighter jet who's kind of quarterbacking everything. Although I'm sure these things could do it by themselves. That's great. That means there are fewer lives who have to be lost, potentially in warfare or whatever it is. You can send these things in, on their own, and you don't have to put a human life in danger necessarily. But the one bad actor is what concerns me. The one person out there who's going to program one of these things, and it's just going to go, it's going to go crazy. And once you cross that line, I don't know that you come back. I still remember a day before even cell phones. That's how old I am, ladies. That was back when I was a kid, but that's okay. I was young, but you know what? It's a blessing and a curse. I think we all say, what would we do without our phones? But we did. We survived. Like you would just be somewhere when you said you'd be there. You called somebody on their house phone. You had to ask for them. Remember, is so-and-so available? Remember doing that? That's way back. Annemarie and Sabrina, thank you both so much for being with us. We appreciate it. As always, ladies, and to everybody at home, thank you so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, and follow. And we'll see you back here next time for more of The Right View. And I won't back down. Hey, baby, there ain't no easy way out. Nothing is worse than being on a phone call that drops. Nothing is worse than trying to text someone and you can't reach them because your phone is out of service range. And nothing is worse than supporting these major corporations and companies who don't support us. That is why I love Patriot Mobile. They are America's only Christian conservative wireless network. They use every cell tower out there available to all networks so that they have the greatest 4G and 5G coverage nationwide, and they support the causes that are important to us as conservatives. If you go today to patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump and use the promo code Trump, you will get free activation today. Again, that is patriotmobile.com/Lara Trump. The promo code is Trump for free activation so that you can get a great cell plan and feel good about doing it.